I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, because you're here for the class, you probably are an introvert, or maybe you love an introvert and you want to understand how to support them when it comes to social media. It's funny because I think I may have mentioned this actually at MortgageCon last year. And if y'all don't know what MortgageCon is, it's amazing. Look it up. You should absolutely be there. It's in February in Orlando. It's a fun time. But I had said something on stage. I was like, well, because I'm an introvert, and people later were like, but you're like everywhere. Like, I feel like I open up social, whichever one it is, and like you're there and you're doing all these videos. I'm like, right, let's think about this. This has allowed me to market from the comfort and security of my home office, where I don't have to go and be on for 2 to 4 hours at a networking event. And people are like, oh, okay, I got it now. So I think a lot of times when we're in sales, it's very common to essentially expect that we're big personalities and we're always outgoing and all that kind of stuff. Because really, when you are commission based, you eat what you kill, right? You need to go and find that business. That means talking to people and all those kind of things. So I wanted to first talk about what an introvert is, just from the standpoint that it does not necessarily mean that you don't like people, or you don't like to socialize, or you're shy, or any of those kind of things. It's really more about the standpoint as far as just kind of where you get your energy from the standpoint as far as, is it something that really for you to kind of get recharged and rest and ready to get back out there and do it again another day? Do you do that on your own, or are you somebody that really gets energy from being around other people? So it's not so much about being bad at socializing. It's just, how do you kind of control your time? How do you manage your time so you can show up as your best self and not feel drained, right? So what I have learned, particularly through social, and I didn't really start social thinking like, oh, this is going to be, a time saver for me, or this is going to kind of help with not always feeling like I had the energy to go out and again do the after hours networking or make 17 calls in a row, in 30 minutes, or those kind of things. It was just more that it was something like, oh, this feels a little bit easier to do. And it's allowed me to attract clients to me, build my brand in a way that I can control the message. And also it's always out there working for me when maybe I do or don't necessarily feel like being social. It's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for me. And then I've been able to build systems around that to kind of help with that. So first of all, just so I can kind of know who's here and make sure that I'm giving you a message that's helpful to know. I'd love if you put in the chat if you consider yourself an introvert, an extrovert, or we always love the term ambivert, right? And so ambivert can kind of be like, oh, I can turn it on, right? Like I can go and I can socialize. INTJ, all right, Greg, all right, yes, same. So for anybody who doesn't know, that's Myers-Briggs, and the I is for introvert. So from that standpoint, I feel like I am kind of more of an ambivert. Like I do enjoy going to conferences or getting together with people and then really being in the moment there, but I only have so much of a battery, right? So, and Haley, awesome. You're in the right place then. If you're 2 weeks on social, we're going to get you hooked up. But from the standpoint, as far as just, again, even if you are an extrovert or you're an extrovert with social anxiety, I think that what we're going to talk about today will help you maintain a consistent posting schedule that will, again, allow the algorithm, allow these platforms to do some of the heavy lifting for you from a sales perspective, and just allow it to support your other efforts that you're doing. Next thing is, from the standpoint as far as one of the biggest things that I think is helpful to understand, whether you identify as being introverted or not, is to understand that it is a big ask to come up with an idea, outline the content, make the content, edit the content, and post the content. You've probably heard of people talking about batching. And really what that is it's kind of an asynchronous strategy, just from the standpoint of you're doing different things at different times. You're not doing it start to finish. But batching or asynchronous, however you want to put it, the reason that helps a lot is because it allows you to minimize task switching. And whether task switching is, feels draining because maybe I think it just is, right? There's no such thing as multitasking. You're really just kind of task switching, which takes different parts of your brain, which kind of the get up and go, the starting of the activity is really what takes a lot of your energy. Or maybe it's ADHD, right? Concentrating on something and then switching to something else, that takes a bigger lift for some people than it does for others. But being able to just understand, again, what works for you and what works for your brain does make social easier, right? Because I think a lot of times there's a lot of flashy content or just like, 30 ideas in 30 minutes, and it's just so easy. And the thing is, it's not. Everything takes work for it to work and to be consistent. So it's sustained effort over time, right? And that's what we're going for. We're not going for virality with one video. I'm trying to show you some of the tools that help to make social part of your regular business practice, just like reaching out to your realtors, reaching out to past clients, following up on pre-approved. It's part of that daily discipline or weekly discipline of your business that once you do it over time, then it does help. One of the first things that I advise is think first and post later. Sometimes you're going to feel more creative than other times. Well, when you are feeling creative or when you have an idea pop in your head and you're like, oh, that would be a killer piece of content, right? You have a conversation with a client or a realtor asks you a question and you're like, I should probably talk about that on social, right? It's a big ask to say, let me execute on that right now. So the first thing is to make sure that you have a place to keep your ideas. You're setting that time aside, right? You're taking some time maybe in the morning, or maybe again, if you're like me and you're cursed with, night owl creativity, I feel like my brain turns on at 9 p.m. And I used to fight it because I'm like, okay, I really want to wind down. But sometimes that's when I come up with my best ideas. So what I have done is just to figure out where to capture those ideas. Couple things. One is I have a couple chats set up in ChatGPT for different purposes, right? Am I going to do a video? Am I going to do a story? Like with a picture, not a story that goes away in 24 hours, but I'm going to tell a story with a picture. So have a couple chats and I'll just kind of voice memo, drop that idea in there. You can use your notes. You could use a notebook, whatever it is, just again, to capture those ideas so you can then work on it later. But the other thing that I think can be a real drain, again, whether it's introversion, ADHD, social anxiety, whatever it is feeling like you always have to be on. A lot of times what I hear from people with socials, it's like, it's such a time suck, and it absolutely can be. But again, if we're shifting from using social as a personal use and we're thinking of how do I use it from a business strategy, then set some time aside to engage in bursts. You know that you've got about 10, 15 minutes sitting in car line, at school, or waiting for your kid to finish their sports, or maybe it's kind of that dead time between like, I've just had dinner, I'm not ready to watch a show or whatever. You've got some of that downtime there. Maybe it's in the morning while you're drinking your coffee. Whatever the case may be, what has worked really well for me is setting those times aside to really go in and be like, okay, I'm going to go and respond to DMs. I'm going to reply to comments, instead of feeling like you always have to be like Johnny on the spot and you're responding right away. Dio has a great class. I know it's in the library somewhere, but it's his strategy of 30, 10, 5, 5, 3, 1. And so in the portal, if you go in Mighty Networks, if you go and search for that, he has his master class on that. Highly recommend watching that. That way you are there from the standpoint as far as you're kind of ready, you can socialize, you don't have to feel like you're always having to be on for people, and it's not so much of a time suck or an energy drag. So the next thing is how to understand sort of where social becomes a drag, right? So what is it? One of the things that I think is, it's the nonverbal overload on video. So think about what we're doing right now. It is great that Zoom is here to connect us, but some days, mine is Thursday, I feel like I am on video meetings all day long. And so even though I haven't gone anywhere, I haven't talked to anybody in person, I feel drained like I have been at an all-day event because I've had to be on. And even when I'm not necessarily teaching or talking or doing something like that, we're sitting here on a screen and we have to, we're like looking at ourselves, we're looking at the other person, we're having long-term eye contact, all that kind of stuff. So being aware if that is a drain for you, that can be a factor too. Right. The other thing, like I said, was the task switching. You post and then you comment and then you're like, oh, I've got DMs. Okay, wait, now I need to go over to this other platform, and now I got to do the DMs, and then it turns into app switching, task switching. So if that's a drag, think about what you can do to segment that so you don't have to feel like you're constantly being on. And I'm sorry that I keep saying that, but that's the best way that I have to describe it, is just like you're kind of constantly social output. And then from the standpoint as far as decision fatigue, right? It's a common question that I'm asked all the time is, what platform should I be on? It is somewhat of a numbers game. The more platforms that you can be on, the more exposure you have, but that comes at a cost, because that comes at a cost of time and then maintaining them and all of that. So is that really a benefit? I don't know. It depends on the tech that you use, and again, where you feel like your time is best spent and where you frankly want to be. So it's also being mindful of where do you want to focus your time to get maximum input or to get maximum impact. And again, being aware of if something feels like an energy suck, you're probably not going to do it. So is it the editing? Again, some people are like, I just can't edit because I cannot stare at a screen of myself for 10 15 minutes to edit a 60-minute video. Totally understandable. Find an editor. Some people are like, I turn on my camera and I'm looking at myself in my screen and I start picking myself apart, like, oh, my hair is not right, or like, is that really what I look like? And you psych yourself out. Turn the camera around, right? So think about what some of those stopping points are that really kind of drain the fun out of making content. But just know that there's some solutions that are out there that can help overcome that, because the visibility that you get on social is important from the standpoint as far as going forward. It's an attention age. It's making sure that you're staying top of mind with your realtors and clients. So I want to make sure that you can execute on it and you can stay consistent, but that takes being honest about what works for you, not just what somebody else says works for them. So one of the biggest things, again, is being on camera without essentially psyching yourself out. So there are a couple things that you can do that I think help with the delivery that you'll give on camera, and then also with just your enjoyment of making the content, right? Like if it's a complete drag, you're not going to do it. So we want to find a way to make it fun. One of the things that does help is record standing up. And think about that if you've ever had to teach a class, give a talk, go and give a realtor presentation. If you're sitting down, if you think about it, it physically restricts you, right? I'm sitting down now, but if you're standing, you're able to move a little bit. You have a little bit more body language. You feel a little bit more relaxed. So if you feel really stiff when you're recording videos, stand up, frame the video so you can move a little bit, so you don't feel as kind of hemmed up or sort of like boxed in. And your energy on camera is going to be better. So you don't look like, you're being held against your will. The other thing that you can do is try the back facing camera. So I know it's very easy to shoot content with our phone, face directly at us, because obviously we can frame ourselves and stuff like that. But there are two reasons that I would encourage you to at least experiment with and try shooting with your back camera. One, you're going to get better footage, right? So like, particularly if you have an iPhone, you've got 2 to 3 cameras where the front camera has one. So you're going to get better footage. And it's also, if that's kind of something that happens when you're looking at yourself, that it psychs you out a little bit, you're not going to see yourself, right? And you can just talk to the camera. Imagine that you're talking to a friend. I've had people that say that they literally tape up like a picture of somebody that they love on the back of their phone and they talk to that, right? So it's whatever you need to do to have some of those training wheels to get really comfortable with it. So then you can just kind of turn it on and go. But by at least turning the phone around, you're not distracted by looking at yourself and potentially getting in your head and saying all kinds of nasty things about yourself. Because we don't need to do that anyway, but sometimes changing the environment can help a little bit. And then the other thing is to come back to batching, right? Recording several clips in one session. So one of the things, I wouldn't say mistakes, right? Because they're all learning lessons. But one of the things that I used to do when I first started recording video is I treated it almost like it was alive, right? And I needed to remember my words, exactly what I needed to say, and deliver it perfectly. And if I didn't, I'd be like, oh, okay, stop camera, start over, right? If you do that 3 or 4 times, you start to get kind of frustrated because it's like, why can I not say what I need to say? Because I say this all the time. I say it to clients all the day long. Why can I not just say it to this camera? And again, you get tense, you kind of get like, your voice kind of gets tight, and you're not coming across as your best self. My advice is, if you are recording kind of a talking head video, right? Like maybe I'm turning on the camera and I'm going to say, okay, so here's the real deal of what's happening with rates. Well, I'm not a machine. I'm not going to say it perfectly. I want to make sure that I say it compliantly, but I'm probably not going to say it perfectly. And instead of stopping the camera, remember there's the beauty of editing. You can just keep going. The best thing to do is, if you do have a little flub up, just kind of go, okay, pause for a second. So what I wanted to talk to you about was what is actually going on with rates right now and what I think is going to happen for the rest of the year. And just say it again, do the delivery again, so you can stay in the momentum of the doing and not the start and stop, or start and stop, because that can psych you out. So those are the three things that I think from the standpoint as far as being on camera can help, depending on maybe what can be a hang up for you. And like I said, I'm basically sharing what all my hangups have been. Now, this is what I want us to spend a little bit of time on, is batching or blocking your time. People are like, okay, great. What does that actually mean? Like, how do I actually do that, right? An easy way to think about this is that there are 5 components. And that may seem intimidating, but again, remember, we're not doing them start to finish. I think it is very hard to do start to finish a video. It has to be something that just comes super easy, or it's very, like there's a news announcement or something like that. But for the most part, this is my process. So 1 is ideate, and that's just thinking about what content do you want to put out. Now, there are times that we want something that's maybe in the moment. Like I said, something, a news headline, or rates move quickly, or whatever the case may be. But for the most part, when you're thinking about scheduling out your content, whether it's you're thinking, what do I want to have for this week, all the way up to what do I have for this month? By taking the time to think about who is it that I'm trying to reach, right? So who's my ideal audience that I'm trying to reach? Am I trying to reach, realtors, first-time home buyers, veterans, investors? And it doesn't have to be just one, right? But who am I trying to reach? Who are my ideal clients? And what do they need to hear, right? What's going on in mortgage right now that either it's an evergreen content, right? It's something that really isn't time specific, right? It's always good information to share. But what is something that they need to hear that is going to help them along in their process? Because again, remember, a big part of why social works and why we want to let these algorithms do some of the work for us is that they can put us in front of people when they are in the very early stages of what they're looking to do. And reaching them then at that point of thought versus point of sale, when the realtor is giving out 3 cards or giving out 3 names and you're one of them, is that gives you the time to build that trust, that relationship, and really, have a client that trusts you and that wants to work with you. And it's not just what's your rate, what's your price. So taking that time to ideate, however that's, if it's in the moment, again, some idea pops up and you want to make sure that you have a place to capture it. Maybe it's the notes on your phone, maybe it's ChatGPT like I have, maybe it's a Google Doc, maybe it's a notebook. Taking that to figure out, okay, now I'm going to plan it. Am I planning out this week's content, and am I planning out this month's content? And then scripting it out or having some kind of outline. I think it is absolutely perfectly fine if, for you to feel comfortable on camera, you use a teleprompter app, right? So it's just like, okay, here are the words that I said that I wanted to say. I'm going to read them so I don't have to remember what I want to say, because it's a lot, to ask all at one time. That is totally cool. Other people are like, I freeze. If there is a script, I'm going to sound stiff, like I'm doing a CE video. So don't box me in, right? But just being able to then maybe have some bullet points of like, hey, this is what I want to talk about, right? Because again, if we're talking about doing this in the form of short form videos, we're talking 30 to 60 seconds, right? We don't have to tell everybody everything about getting a DSCR in 60 seconds, but we want to tell them something that's going to be helpful for the person that needs to hear that message. And again, remember, pauses, aren't the worst thing in the world. Saying something and then, being like, what I mean is, right, you want to be human. You do not need to be perfect. So don't edit out all of your personality or all of your quirks or quote unquote flaws, but you want to leave enough room that you have an idea of what you want to talk about and that you can still show who you are. And then recording them. So from the standpoint of recording, again, I recommend turning on the camera and it's like, okay, I'm going to record 3 videos and I'm going to sit here. I'm going to maybe block out an hour so I don't feel rushed, and I'm going to go through them, and I'm not going to start and stop. I'm going to let the editor, or if I'm editing them myself, I can fix that later. You want to, again, keep your energy up. And then from editing, I find, and this is maybe a little bit different than what a lot of times I think you might hear from some other creators, but I really like Canva. Rhonda, you're right on time, because that's what I'm thinking from the standpoint as far as editing. I really like Canva for editing videos because a lot of us already use Canva. So the the buttons as far as like where things are and how things work, I think are a lot more user-friendly than say CapCut. But there are a lot of apps that are out there that can help you edit. Some of them use AI, so they automatically edit and pull clips. Some of them, again, like Canva or CapCut, you're choosing what your clips are and putting, captions on them or things like that. Or I personally like Social Coach. It's a platform that will edit your videos for you. It's geared towards the mortgage industry. And for a long time, I had this like pride of like, I edit my own videos and I do all my own, stunts basically. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not the best use of my time. So I do use them to edit a good amount of my videos just because, again, it's time is money. So have a process for your editing. And again, you don't have to record and edit at the same time. You can edit when you're watching a show or you're burning some time, or you want to edit it on the weekends and set an hour aside to edit your videos, whatever the case may be. Segmenting it into these batches will help. And then scheduling. You can schedule automatically within pretty much all of the apps at this point, or you can upload your drafts so it's there and you're not thinking, oh, shoot, it's 5:30. I've had a hell of a day and now I've got to like get my video. I've got to come up with something great to say in the caption and still post it. Try to schedule ahead of time, or at least go ahead and have the drafts in there, because that will help you, again, execute on what you want to do and the consistency of posting. And then from the standpoint of, formats that I think work really well for introverts or people that just like don't want to just like spend all their time on social. One, no video whatsoever. It's just carousels. Carousels do really well on Instagram and LinkedIn, actually. You can do that as well. And what a carousel is going to be a series of pictures. So that is really good for teaching a concept or telling a story. There are a ton of really good Instagram carousel templates in Canva as well. So that way you're not having to start with a blank screen. You can screen record tutorials. So what that might look like is you're taking your phone, you're setting it up, you're filming the screen of your computer, and you're saying, here's how, you've got like a dummy file, right? Like, hey, here's how debt affects what you can qualify for. And you're literally showing them what we look at when we're looking at DTI and how, income or debt can affect that and can affect somebody's ability to qualify. It gives us very like behind the scenes, kind of insider info. And that does very well. Again, you don't have to be on screen. You can just talk somebody through. You can do narrated slides. So that could be something where maybe you are showing, I've done it before where I've shown like how somebody can find how they can get homestead taxes, right? So I'll go and I'll screenshot the different sites for a state of like, you're going to go here, or you're going to Google this, you're going to go here, you click here, this is what the form is. And you're literally just talking them through the pictures. That's a little bit low pressure too. And then B-roll is going to be stuff where you're not face to camera, right? You're not directly speaking to camera and teaching a concept. It's something where it might be a video of you walking into your office or walking through an open house, or, video of you maybe teaching a realtor class, but not having the sound for it, right? And then you're doing a voiceover, or you are putting text on the screen with music, and it's you in the video, right? So we've got the personal branding, we've got the personal aspect, but it's not as kind of heavy of a lift or sort of as socially engaging as talking direct to the camera. And then also faceless reels, that can be kind of B-roll, right? So that might be a picture, or that might be a video like of you walking your dog through, the path that you like to walk near your house. And maybe, again, you could do a voiceover, talk about how thankful you are for the year that you've had for your clients or something like that. You can do text on the screen and music, and you're not in it at all. It's just video that you filmed that gives a little bit of context to what you're talking about. So remember, there are a lot of options that are out there that don't have to be straight up, just sitting down and recording video after video of you, giving kind of underwriting guidelines. Last thing, from the standpoint, as far as another question that people always ask is, how often should I be posting? I think 3 times a week is a happy medium, because again, our goal is we want the consistency. It's if you've ever heard of the program, or if you've ever kind of done it, couch to 5K, right? We're not going to go from not running at all to all of a sudden running a 5K. That is, you might injure yourself, not very sustainable, not at all enjoyable. But you can build up to it. So by building up to it, it's showing that consistency and progress. Maybe you do start once per week, and then you are, moving to twice a week, 3 times a week. You can post daily if you want to, because it is a little bit of a numbers game, but you want to make sure that you're putting out content that you actually resonate with, right? Like just taking a flyer and putting it up on Instagram as a picture isn't probably going to do a whole lot for you. So I believe in quality over quantity, but 3 times a week tends to be a good mix, because you can have a video, you can have a carousel, you can have a personal story. It gives enough room that you have different types of content to reach different people, how they like to kind of consume information, without it being so taxing that it feels, that it's like eating your daily veggies, right? That it's just kind of a drag and you're not even enjoying it and you're just doing it to do it. That's not going to give you the results that you want. You want to make sure that you're able to show your personality, but do so in a way that you can sustain it. But the last thing that I would say is just have some guidelines, or kind of some boundaries around what feels sustainable for you. So that might be, again, blocks for engagement. So comment windows. I'm going to engage in the morning, and I'll engage in the afternoon for about 30 minutes each. And that's pretty much it, right? So like on my phone, I use an app called Opal. It's free, but it basically blocks social apps until I want to go and be on there. So it helps sometimes with kind of the time suck factor of it. But again, if we're thinking about this from a business perspective, you can't be all things to all people all the time, and you can't necessarily feel like you're on all the time. So if you have those comment windows, that makes it a little bit more, sustainable. And then you're, again, kind of blocking that time, so you're in the zone and ready to comment and engage in all that kind of stuff. Reply scripts. So sometimes if you get a lot of the same questions on videos, right? Like, I have a question, how do I reach you? Or how do I learn more? You can have saved text shortcuts in your phone. That's an option where you can, have the same script that you're going to reply every time. Hey, if you go to the link in my bio, it has all the information there. I look forward to talking with you, right? That can save you time. That can save you energy to think about, how do I want to respond to this person? You could have a note in your phone that has some of your favorite responses. Go copy paste that as a comment. That will save you time and energy. And then also just think about when you want to limit the apps, so you don't feel like you are always on. So maybe that means, again, I'm treating this kind of like work. I don't want to go and hang out on LinkedIn for fun at 9 p.m. So I'm going to block the app, or I'm just again, coming back to some of those engagement windows to help manage your time. And then last thing, sometimes people will say, well, like, I started this and it was great and I was having 30 days and then, had some really tough files, or just life, or whatever the case may be. And I'm not really enjoying this. Like, I'm not feeling super inspired. That's normal. That doesn't mean that you suck at this. That is part of being human, and that is normal. So that's why I think sometimes having a plan and having a structure so you can maintain that consistency, so at least you're showing up, you have some flexibility in how you do certain content, will help. And then it usually comes back, right? But what we don't want to do is completely stop, because really it's that consistency, that sustained effort over time, that's going to get you the results that you want from social.